This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
So listen up, I bet that you have heard this too many times, but I need your love. Oh, it gets lonely in this gangster's paradise. Oh, hurry up and quit pretending like I came for nothing tonight. I said I need your love. You got me burning up, I think I'll call you Mrs. Fallon.
Program is rated MA-LSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Finally, show with the balls to call it like it is. Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Countdown to audio torture.
The Rated R Safety Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Let the eardrum pain begin.
Forget the corporate bullshit. This is the Rated R Safety Show with your host, Dr. It doesn't matter who the host is.
Oh, I think that is the truest thing that we can say as we start our show, because we say that almost every single day. It does not matter who the host is. What has always mattered is who the listeners are. Anyways, we are broadcasting on this lovely May the 20th of 2026 from the Safety FM studios in Orlando, Florida, and coming across the multiverse known as Safety FM. And then we are hanging out with our friends and colleagues over there. No, like over there. Maybe over there.
Radio.
Yep, hanging out with our friends at Radio Big.FM. Like I keep on telling you, I have a dream that one day we will have both of those apps formed on one app opposed to two separate apps, but we can leave that for a different day. Anyway, so how are you? How are things going? Hopefully everything is going fantastically well
on this lovely Whip-About Wednesday.
So just some stuff to think about. Anyways, we are broadcasting here as we are coming to you to talk about all the crazy stuff that goes on inside of the world of news, inside of the world of safety, and we're here to deliver all of this information to you. So if you want to follow along on what exactly is going on, so we got some different stuff going on. If you go to safetyfm.com, we will automatically play exactly there. If you go to where it says radio, just click on the little button and boom, it will go everywhere for you in regards of what's going on. That will be the option one. You can also go to radiobig.fm during the first hour, and we call this the Rated R Safety Show, and we'll be simulcasting across that little multiverse there. Of course, we also do this in a podcast. We also do this in a video, so it just depends on where you want to hang out. Visual radio on safetyfm.com is probably the best way to do this. But now we're on the, on the YouTube app. You can flip back and forth between the video and the audio. I know it kind of gets kind of weird with some of the other stuff as we are going on, but let's not get too deep into the weeds here. So if you want to come and interact with the show, it's easy to do so. All you have to do is go to callinradio.com.
Duh.
That's callinradio.com.
Duh.
And once you do that, what it's going to tell you is that you can do video, audio, or text messaging are the three options. It gives me a little prompt over here on the screen. I know what to do as we move forward, and then that makes you inside of our multiverse of all the craziness that we're doing. That's it. That's kind of the whole kit and caboodle. So if you want to do that, go ahead and do that, and we can get that whole thing rolling. I'll take a look at what exactly is coming in, especially on Whip 'em Out Wednesday, where everybody tries to make it nice and warm around here. Okay, so with that being said, let's do this. I do have my friends from Feature Story News. that are waiting and ready to hang out and do all the fun stuff that they get to do. Because why would you not want to be ready and do some cool things? So if you're good with going into the news, I guess I'm good with going into the news, and we can get everything going for you. I guess right now.
Here is the news on the Radio R Safety Show.
From Feature Story News in Brussels, I'm William Denslow. Russia's president has announced that relations with China have reached an unprecedentedly high level. President Putin's visit to Beijing comes on the heels of US President Donald Trump's high-profile summit in the Chinese capital last week. Daria Bondarchuk reports from Moscow.
On his state visit to China, President Putin is accompanied by a high-level delegation including 5 deputy prime ministers, 8 ministers, heads of dozens of state companies and major corporations, as well as the chief of Russia's central bank. The Russian leader said the two countries' relations have reached an unprecedentedly high level. President Xi said Russia and China should focus on long-term strategy and promote a more just and reasonable global governance system. The two leaders are discussing international issues, including ongoing crises around Iran and Ukraine, as well as bilateral energy cooperation. They have extended the long-standing agreement on friendship and are expected to sign dozens more documents, further strengthening bilateral cooperation. Daria Bondarchuk, Moscow.
President Trump has warned that he may have to strike Iran with another big hit. On Monday, he said he was pausing plans to restart hostilities on the insistence of Middle East leaders. They had urged restraint to allow more time for a peace deal.
So they called up, they had heard I made the decision. They said, sir, could you give us a couple of more days because we think they're being reasonable. Well, I'm saying 2 or 3 days, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something, maybe early next week, a limited period of time. Because we can't let them have a nuclear weapon. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would start with Israel. They would blow it up.
Indian Airlines are reportedly locked in talks with state-run oil companies, hoping to delay a massive spike in jet fuel costs as the Iran war squeezes global energy supplies. It comes as India, the world's third-largest energy importer, officially ends a 4-year price freeze, leaving both the aviation sector and consumers bracing for impact. Neha Punia has more.
The government had kept jet fuel prices capped at 25% for the month of May. Bloomberg report claiming that state-run oil companies are discussing, and I quote, whether to raise domestic jet fuel prices by as much as 25% in June. There's been no comment or clarification from the government on these claims. In India, oil makes up about 2/5 of the operating costs for airlines. Carriers have been warning of flight disruptions if the government doesn't control fuel prices, and this is coming at an important time ahead of peak travel season in India.
And European Union legislators have reached a provisional agreement on the terms of a trade arrangement brokered between the EU and United States. The deal was reached last summer, and Washington has grown increasingly frustrated that it's yet to come into force. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. One more time today, we're going to look back at last week's state visit to China by President Trump. What was it all about? Rana Mitter thinks he knows. He's with the Harvard Kennedy School and the author of China's Good War, How World War II is Shaping a New Nationalism.
President Trump doesn't seem to be looking for any kind of existential clash between China and the United States. For instance, the language that you heard at the beginning of the Biden administration, perhaps not so much by the end, about having a league of democracies versus, autocracies, that's not at all the kind of language that we put forward. It is very clear that the Trump doctrine is very much fixated on dealing with the trade deficit specifically, but it really does concentrate in that area. And I think because this administration, above all, is one where, in the end, the president decides what the tone is going to be, one imagines that it has to have been the case that he's decided that the trade deficit comes first and foremost, and the other elements, including Taiwan, AI, Iran, and all the other things, that fentanyl, which were on the agenda as well, would be second to that. And it's worth noting that of all the things in the 3-4 days since the end of the summit that have entered the headlines as being forthcoming, it is that sale of agricultural products that seem to be dominating the headlines.
And that story will develop further in September when President Xi makes his visit to the United States.
The main news again. Russia's president has announced that relations with China have reached an unprecedentedly high level. President Putin's visit to Beijing comes on the heels of US President Donald Trump's high-profile summit in the Chinese capital last week. President Trump has warned he may have to strike Iran with another big hit. And European Union legislators have reached a provisional agreement on the terms of a trade arrangement brokered between the EU and US. And that's the latest feature story news. William Denslow reporting.
Listen to our host of the Rated R Safety Show. Self-implode on our airwaves. Only on Safety FM.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete signal transmission trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion. The book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all three books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
Let's start using cutting-edge warp speed 5G technology with your cell phone. Let me tell you about my friends at mobilemobile.io. They have an ultra-fast 4G LTE and 5G network that covers 99% of Americans. So they've got you covered everywhere. Think about it for a moment. You have the opportunity to take a test drive for 10 days with unlimited talk, text, and premium data. What is premium data? Premium data is an allotment of a cellular data that you receive from a higher priority on the network. You won't get throttled like you will with some of those, non-brand service providers. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to mobilemobile.io. That's mobilemobile.io to start your 10-day free trial.
Hello. Is your safety training old, stale, and hacked? Is your safety trainer still preaching a warped version of behavior-based safety? How about safety training that actually addresses your hazards in your workplaces and is not standardized baloney from 25 years ago? Contact the Safety Wars team at safetywars.com or call Jim Posel at 845-269-5772. Remember, if you're receiving this message, you are the solution to unsafe workplaces.
This portion of the show has been sponsored by Private Internet Access, America's #1 virtual private network, or VPN. Even if you use incognito mode, internet service providers is storing your browser data and many times even selling it. But Private Internet Access, or PIA, can help you. PIA encrypts and reroutes your internet traffic through one of its own servers, hiding your data from your internet service provider or network admin. And with servers in over 75 countries, you can get unrestricted access to geo-blocked content from around the world. PIA comes with easy-to-use apps and browsers extension for all devices, a rock-solid privacy policy, open source security, advanced customization settings, and it was just ranked the fastest VPN in the world by PC Magazine. And if you sign up right now with PIA, you can take advantage of a special deal only for Safety FM listeners. Only by using the following link, you can get the digital privacy for less than $2 a month. Yes, you did hear me correctly, less than $2 a month, and an extra 4 months for free. So that means for only $1.98 a month and 83% off, you can get this service for you right now. That's so much more inexpensive than virtually every other VPN on the market. And if you get it right now, you can take PIA's 30-day risk-free challenge. You can try it out for 30 days, see if you like it, and if not, just return it for a full refund. So just go to safetyfm.com/VPN. That's safetyfm.com/VPN to try out the best VPN on the planet completely risk-free. Now remember, safetyfm.com/VPN.
You are listening to a radio god. What? This has to be an error. That host is not a radio god. Anyways, this is the Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Listening to this show every day is doctor recommended and
good.
Okay, good for sure. It's definitely what it sounds like. So a lot of stuff to talk about as we are hanging out on this lovely Whip 'em Out Wednesday. So I don't know where to go here. So there's some things that are going on today before we get too far into it. So is it today or is it tomorrow? Let's talk about this because it's on the verge of happening. But in an interview with People, the magazine, I would assume, Stephen Colbert talked about his show ending. Take a listen to what he had to say.
With the Colbert Report, I knew how I wanted it to end because, well, I picked the date. This time, it wasn't my choice, wasn't my date. It's not written, but I know what I want to end at. Who knows? Maybe CBS saved my life because it takes a lot of bone marrow to do the show every day. All my brothers and sisters and husbands and wives and everything are coming to the last show.
A lot of bone marrow, so there you go. So yeah, that's coming to an end. I think it comes to an end tomorrow, but don't hold me 100% to it. I'm lost in the days of the week that it is anyways, as we are talking, because that's just kind of how it goes in that particular regard. So let's get into some things that are going on inside of the multiverse, because there is a lot to go. So take a listen to this. Senator Ted Cruz fiery argument over the compensation for the violent Jan 6, that's January 6th, rioters. Take a listen. Ted Cruz got into a fiery back and forth with TMZ over President Trump's proposed $1.776 billion fund that could compensate some of the January 6th defendants. The argument centered on whether taxpayers should foot the bill, or for people involved in the Capitol riot, especially those who are convicted of violent crimes. The reporter flatly said that he didn't want his tax dollars going to the rioters who assaulted police officers or damaged the Capitol. Cruz countered with pivoting to the former President Joe Biden, accusing the Biden administration of weaponizing the Justice Department against both Trump and the peaceful protesters. The reporters pushed back, saying that the issue wasn't about the past administration. It was about whether or not the violent January 6 participants should get paid. Cruz said the people who committed the violence on January 6th deserve prosecution and should face consequences, but stopped short of saying whether they should or should not receive compensation from the proposed fund. Basically, he tap danced around the question like it was a live grenade. Meanwhile, Randy Fine was asked even more directly whether someone convicted or injuring a police officer should receive a qualifying compensation. Fine didn't completely rule it out, saying that they would depend on whether the person had been treated fairly. Take a listen to the report. It's kind of long.
I'm a little concerned that January 6 rioters, violent January 6 rioters who were convicted and then pardoned, I'm a little worried that they're going to be entitled to taxpayer money, that money's going to come out of my pocket and go into their pockets. Do you think violent, convicted and then pardoned January 6 rioters, do you think they should be eligible for this sort of slush fund?
I'm not surprised you're worried about that, but I'm curious, were you worried at all when Joe Biden was weaponizing the Department of Justice?
I don't want to talk about Joe Biden, sir.
I know you don't. I understand you got a political agenda.
No, I don't. I just don't want to pay January 6 rioters.
Look, I get. You get to ask a question.
Can you
I get
answer?
to give the answer. I'm giving you my answer.
Okay.
Which is that you were not remotely concerned when Joe Biden weaponized the Department of Justice.
Gotcha.
To go after his political opponents, to prosecute them, to go after Donald Trump. Trump was indicted not once, 4 separate times.
Gotcha,
it was
gotcha.
the greatest abuse of the rule of law in our nation's history.
Do you think January 6 rioters should be eligible for this money? Yes or no?
I think what the Biden Justice Department did is they prosecuted people who engaged in peaceful protest. I believe...
I'm not talking about Biden.
But if you want me to answer, let me answer.
Okay, sure.
I believe people who engage in active violence should be prosecuted and face consequences. I believe people who engage in peaceful protest are protected under the First Amendment, and I think the Biden Department of Justice deliberately targeted people who engage in peaceful protests.
So yes or no to my question?
And by the way, I wrote an entire book on this entitled Justice Corrupted, How the Left
So
Weaponized
please
Legal
just answer
System.
my question.
And why are you not concerned about the abuse of
Because
power?
I'm concerned about this today.
I know you're concerned about it.
So you won't answer the question.
Your political agenda
It's
is
no
on
agenda.
one side.
Are you going to answer the question, sir?
I have answered
You
your question.
didn't.
It's just not consistent
Do you
with your
think the
political
January 6 rioters are eligible for the slush fund? Thanks, Ted.
Okay, so the slush fund is the question that's trying to be answered there. So let me kind of just go through it. So yeah, kind of avoided the question or the answer directly. That's okay. Or maybe he did give an answer. Maybe that is his form of answer. But I did appreciate the plug. I mean, honestly, you have to appreciate the plug of, hey, let me plug my book because I have the opportunity of doing so.
Another pitfall of our society. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so there you go. A lot of stuff going on inside of the world of the multiverse because that's just kind of how we do it. Oh, politics. You can't leave them even if you wanted to. So take a listen to this one real quick because this is an interesting one. An Oklahoma family says that they owe their lives to two very unlucky heroes, their pet goats, and a massive F4 tornado that tore through the Enrid on April the 23rd. Adam Sloat family and two neighbors became trapped underground from their storm shelter beneath tons of rubble from their destroyed home. The family had been watching NFL draft, and the rare tornado emergency alert was issued. Adam and his wife, Mary, and their teenage daughter and their neighbors, Eddie and Linda, rushed into their underground shelter just before the twister. Packing winds of 200 miles an hour slammed into their neighbor's house, I guess. Inside of the shelter, they heard windows exploding, glass shattering, and bricks crashing down on the tornado that ripped apart their home. At one point, the chimney collapsed onto the shelter door, trapping everyone inside under thousands of pounds of debris. And after the storm passed, the group called 911, but the rescuers couldn't figure out exactly where they were buried. Then came the breakthrough. The family heard a faint goat noise from above. Against all odds, the family's pet goats, Percy and Penny, had survived the tornado and refused to leave the spot above where they were trapped. The goats stomped around and kept bleeding until rescuers finally noticed and began digging through the debris. Firefighters later told the family they likely wouldn't have found the shelter so quickly without the goats leading them there. When the Sloats finally emerged, they finally was completely destroyed. Their home was completely destroyed with debris scattered everywhere. Amazing, despite the devastation across the area, officials reported only minor injuries. Take a listen to this.
There was a knock at our back door. It was our neighbors, and they said, "It's coming. We've seen it." And so we immediately went down into the cellar, and it was less than a minute, and we heard glass crashing, things breaking. The door of the cellar dented in. We were trapped in the cellar, and I was the only one who had cell phone service. I called 911.
But when first responders got there was no sign of the family. Then, a miracle.
My daughter and I could have sworn we heard our goats and thought, there's absolutely no way. But yet you hear them.
Yep, their 3-year-old pet goats, Percy and Penny, not only survived the hellscape, they also stood right over the cellar and started bleating as if to pinpoint the rescuers to the trapped family.
Oh my goodness, this is a miracle.
That's Percy and that's Penny.
And here are those goats today.
For them to know that we were underneath those bricks, no one can explain. The better interview would be if they could talk.
The better interview would be if they could talk. Okay, there you go. I guess some stuff to think about as we are talking. No doubt about that one. So, pet goats saving people's lives. I guess it's a different kind of thing. That is for sure.
Duh.
So there you go. Okay, so let's continue talking about some other things that are going on inside of the world of the multiverse, because that's just kind of how we do our thing around here. That is for sure. So take a listen to this one real quick. UFC President Dana White says a surprisingly simple problem could disrupt next month's historic UFC event at the White House. White revealed that during a recent Rose Garden dinner with President Trump, the two were swarmed by clouds and tiny insects. Enough for him to immediately call his production team once he got on the plane, and he told them that the Boardroom podcast, that outdoor events on the East Coast always comes with bug issues, but this one was extreme. White said that the gnats could interfere with the light cameras and fighters' visibility and overall broadcast, especially with a massive lighting grid needed for the nighttime show. I almost said the nightmare show. He knows that exploring fixes, including installing air fans, including a venue to blow insects away from the cage and the cameras. White joked that this is exactly why he hates outdoor fights, adding, "These are the little details that we have to work out." The event set for the White House lawn for part of America's 250, the 80th birthday celebration of Trump, is being billed as one of the biggest nights in UFC history. But the production team is now racing to solve the gnat problem for the fight. So there you go. Some things to think about as we are talking. I have to tell you, I can't even believe that this is actually going on if you really think about it. So there you go. What else do we got going on? The head of the FAA told senators that bad design in the crowded airspace around Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport led to last year's deadly collision between American Eagle jet and Army Black Hawk helicopter that killed 67 people. FAA Administrator Brian Bedford admitted that there were warning signs and data showing that the airspace setup was unsafe long before the crash. Senators blasted the FAA for what they called a culture of complacency. While experts pointed out the overcrowded skies, military helicopter traffic, and Congress adding extra flights into the already packed airport. The FAA it says it's not working through it's now working through dozens of safety recommendations to prevent another disaster. You know, I always think it's funny on how hindsight is always 20/20, and how, you know, looking back, we've had enough data to show that this was going to be an issue in the first place.
Duh.
But did that solve anything by saying that? Because if you had the data and you did absolutely nothing with the data, it's kind of a weird thing to make the statement on. But here's the thing. A friend of mine says this all the time. Saying that all accidents are preventable is similar to saying that all lottery numbers are knowable once the drawing happens. And I get it. It makes sense to me in regards of them saying that. But why do you think that this is going to change anything? So you're looking into this now. You're trying to make sure that you can correct the problem. Good. I mean, that's a great approach. But mentioning on how we had the information, we kind of knew that it needed to be fixed and nothing was done, that's not solving anything. It's just going to piss people off in regards of you mentioning that, because then it's like, you're an idiot. I mean, let's just be realistic on what we're saying here.
Duh.
So that's going to be the portion to think about. So does it make sense to say this? Or do we kind of look at it and go, well, maybe we should just keep our mouth shut in regards of what's going on? Because that is a whole other thing. That it would be the whole other thing to think about.
We at Safety FM are not responsible for what this idiot behind the microphone is saying. He is trying to be entertaining. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, take a listen to this one. A 12-year-old Ukrainian boy is being listed as a hero after reportedly stopping a Russian explosive drone that was heading towards his family's home. According to the report, Antonio Prochreskensko was sitting on the pear tree near his village close to a Russian border where he heard the sound of a drone overheard. He heard the sound of a drone overhead. Sorry, you can't even read. He recognized that the Firebig Opter-guided FPV, a type that you can't be jammed electronically because it's connected to its operator by a thin cable carrying a video and commands. Anatoly had previously learned from a Ukrainian soldier those cables worked and how they could sometimes get snapped manually. When he spotted the drone flying towards the yard where his younger siblings were playing, he climbed down, grabbed a cable, looped it, and then yanked it hard enough to break the connection. The drone reportedly lost control, crashed harmlessly into the swamp before exploding. The boy has since then been praised across Ukraine as a symbol of bravery, while Russians online channels reportedly targeted him with criticism afterwards. His family temporarily relocated to a different city for safety as drone attacks continue near the border. Most kids that age are fighting screen time. He actually fought the actual screen, if we put it that way. And somewhere a Russian drone operator got beaten by a middle schooler in a pear tree. That kid unlocked the world's most stressful game of capture the flag is definitely what it sounds like. So I guess to some extent, congratulations to you, I would imagine. So there you go. Okay, so look, do we got time for another one? Yeah, we got time for another one. Take a listen to this. A routine late-night stop at Midtown Manhattan turned tragic when a 56-year-old woman died after falling into an open manhole near the New York City's busiest shopping area. Police say that the woman had just parked her Mercedes SUV around 11:20 p.m. Monday near the Cartier store on Fifth Avenue, where she stepped out of the vehicle and fell roughly 10 feet into an uncovered utility manhole. Responding officers found her inside of the opening after a 911 call. EMS rushed her to a nearby hospital where she later was pronounced dead. The incident happened near 653 Fifth Avenue, a heavily trafficked shopping corridor in New York City's authorities have not publicly identified the woman. Con Edison said that it is actively investigating how the manhole was left open in the first place. So it's going to be an interesting one. Let's just not lie. Because believe me, I think that if the person knew that if they stepped into the manhole or stepped out of their car was going to fall into a manhole and die, they wouldn't have done that. So that's going to be the first thing. Number two about the whole thing, isn't that going to be an interesting one? Because you know that there's going to be the blame game. The blame game is going to happen there. So somebody's going to have to make a determination on who exactly left the manhole open. That's going to be the question. And then it's going to be like, you're the one responsible for the whole thing. This is the way that it goes. 32 minutes past the hour, just in case if you were wondering. Like, seriously, just in case if you were wondering.
Here is our main story on the Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so main story time. So let's go ahead and do that. It's time for you and I to hang out, strip away the corporate jargon, and talk about, the lovely stuff. Yeah, the lovely stuff that we get to do. Seriously. Because if we weren't doing the lovely stuff, what exactly would we be doing? So let's go ahead and do this. Today I wanted for you to close your eyes unless you're driving, and please don't do that, and picture a room. You know that exact room that I'm talking about. It's that windowless conference room in the basement of your facility, or maybe that rented out hotel ballroom that smells like like that weird coffee, that weird scenario. You know, this is stuff that we've talked about before. This is stuff that we have discussed before. But what if we are talking about all of this stuff just to go like this? There is a time and there is a place for all of this. There is a time and a place where you have to go into these weird rooms that you're already familiar with. There is a time and a place where you have to go to these places that you already know. And unfortunately, that room, that windowless room, you already know that room. You've been there before. You've been there at some point where you have those windowless rooms and you're kind of debating about what the hell is about to happen inside of here and what is the conversation you're about to have. But that's the funny part. That's not the room that I really want you to envision, but I wanted you to start there because that's where most of these quote unquote safety conversations occur. At least from the grandstand of this is how the company's going to change. But let's talk about this. Because for some reasons, those are the same rooms where you've had probably this conversation. We have went 6 months, 180 days, without an incident. We've probably also had the conversation where we need to make sure that we are doing more observations and verifying what is going on. That is probably the same kind of room that you've been into, where all of a sudden we need to make sure that someone is held accountable for what occurred on the floor inside of a safety issue that we had. Tell me how this does not sound familiar. Tell me how this is not the room that you've been into where a lot of strange stuff happens. And it's interesting that you can almost pinpoint to a T where exactly those conversations have occurred in the past. Now, here's the thing that I want you to think about today. And I want you to think about this just slightly differently. Is human and organizational performance something that you've been involved with in the past? Because if you have, I want you to think about something. That room that we were just talking about, that smells like coffee, has the old kind of no window section. Is that where you heard about human and organizational performance? Because I am almost willing to bet that it's not. I am almost willing to bet that you heard about it somewhere else. A little bit more happier, a little bit more chippier in regards to what's going on. And I'm not saying, hey, the room is what's going to set it apart. But man, I want you to think about it. The first time you heard about that, there was probably more people around than what you think. If it was from a presentation standpoint, not a podcast, not a recording, not a video. But you probably heard about it and you kind of had that different experience for a moment. You kind of knew at that particular point in time that that conversation was different. It seemed like it's something you should automatically know, but you had never heard it that way, even though you had already thought about something similar but didn't have a name for it. And then when you started talking about it, it became one of those things that it was much different. It was one of those things that when you started talking about it, you came to the realization right away that people had to be involved with this. It wasn't just being locked up in a room and saying, let's point and blame. Let's point and shame. It was one of those things where you said, this has to have more people interaction. It's not just a conversation that's a one-way directional thing. We'll call it more of a joint venture. Because if we're able to do human organizational performance, you'll see that, number one, there's a human involved, there's an organization involved, and you're looking at the performance overall. And you have to change things as they go. You have to change things as they move forward. And you have to have that general conception that things are going to move with you. And it's interesting that when most people talk to me about this for the first time, like this is their first experience of it, the way that they look, the way that they talk about it is so different in comparison to some of the other stuff. Now, I will have some people out there today complain about, oh, it's a feelings conversation. It's a happy-go-lucky. No, there's some other stuff tied into it as well. Because here's the thing. Most of the times you are aware that if you are doing
scientific research,
you start off with a model. And based on that model is how you go do your research question, your RQ. And the reason that you do that is because you want to test your model to make sure that it's working. And almost when you start looking at this, that is almost the way that you have to go about it. You have to look at this and go, maybe I did not agree with those hotel rooms, those ballrooms, those basement facilities that was saying certain things needed to be done inside of the organization. But I'm interested in this other aspect, and I have this idea on how it should work. And now, even though I might not call it these things, my RQ, my research question, is going to drive me into this model and look more and look more and look more. So as you hang out today and as you are doing all of this stuff, I want you to think about that. When you got here, when you started doing all of this? What all of a sudden was the driving force behind it? Was it the idea of change? Was it the idea of something new? Or was your questions really guiding you?
Oops! What did he just say?
We at Safety FM don't always agree with the viewpoints of our hosts and guests.
Now back to real safety talk on Safety FM.
Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the home of real safety talk.
You are listening to Safety FM. We'll be right back.
This isn't a safety manual. It's a transmission. Jay Allen, PhD, host of the Rated R Safety Show and founder of Safety FM, has spent years pulling back the curtain on the systems we work in and the ones we don't talk about. What started as a fatal crash on the 405 became a search for truth through behavior-based safety, human and organizational performance, simulation theory, and everything in between. Safety, in my opinion, is raw, reflective, and real. From burnout to breakthroughs, from the matrix to the moment someone says, "This doesn't feel right." This book doesn't give you answers. It hands you the signal. Safety, in my opinion. Available now, wherever books and audiobooks are found.
Do you have a claim and not sure where to turn? Coastal Claim Consultants are professionally licensed and bonded public insurance adjusters employed exclusively by you, the policyholder, to represent you after sustaining an insured loss. They assist policyholders in all aspects of processing the claim, working closely with the insured to provide the most equitable and timely settlement possible. They will provide you with comprehensive service, anything from inspecting the loss site, analyzing damages, compiling claim support data, reviewing applicable coverages, assessing replacement costs of damages, and negotiating your settlement. The adjusters at Coastal Claim Consultants will evaluate your claim for no upfront cost whatsoever. Coastal Claim Consultants' fee is based on contingency contracts and are paid when the insurance company sends you a check and it's in your possession. Coastal Claim Consultants are licensed to assist you in the following states: Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, and South Carolina. For more information, go to coastal-cc.com. That's coastal-cc.com. For more information, lighting the way to recovery. Coastal Claim Consultants.
Listen at your own risk. Rated R Safety Show.
This portion of the show has been sponsored by Private Internet Access, America's #1 virtual private network, or VPN. Even if you use incognito mode, internet service providers is storing your browser data and many times even selling it. But Private Internet Access, or PIA, can help you. PIA encrypts and reroutes your internet traffic through one of its own servers, hiding your data from your internet service provider or network admin. And with servers in over 75 countries, you can get unrestricted access to geo-blocked content from around the world. PIA comes with easy-to-use apps and browsers extension for all devices, a rock-solid privacy policy, open source security, advanced customization settings, and it was just ranked the fastest VPN in the world by PC Magazine. And if you sign up right now with PIA, you can take advantage of a special deal only for Safety FM listeners. Only by using the following link, you can get the digital privacy for less than $2 a month. Yes, you did hear me correctly, less than $2 a month, and an extra 4 months for free. So that means for only $1.98 a month and 83% off, you can get this service for you right now. That's so much more inexpensive than virtually every other VPN on the market. And if you get it right now, you can take PIA's 30-day risk-free challenge. You can try it out for 30 days, see if you like it, and if not, just return it for a full refund. So just go to safetyfm.com/VPN. That's safetyfm.com/VPN to try out the best VPN on the planet completely risk-free. Now remember, safetyfm.com/VPN.
What do guys like besides pizza and morning sex?
Jay Allen in the morning.
It's so bizarre and unnatural.
It's all good. On radio.
I need your love. Oh, it gets lonely in this gangster's paradise. Oh, hurry up and quit pretending like I came for nothing tonight. I said I need your love. You got me burning up. I think I'll call you Mrs. Fahrenheit. So eat me alive.
Okay, here we are, 45 minutes past the top of the hour. You are still hanging out here on the Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM and on Radio Big. Always a good time as you and I get to hang out and do some stuff. Lot of things going on. Lot of things going on. Yep. Okay. So a lot of stuff going on inside of the multiverse. This right here is a band called The Clans. Song's called Mr. Fahrenheit. You can go ahead and give it a little streamer action on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, and Pandora. Yep. So there you go. We'd like to thank the Clans for allowing us to play this here on the Rated R Safety Show. So let's continue hanging out, talking a little bit about this, talking a little bit about that, and talking about what the hell's going on inside of the world of the multiverse. So let's talk about this for just a brief moment in time, if you do not mind, of course. Let me tell you about the most important thing that I will ever tell you in my lifetime, and that's about my friends at To Write Love on Our Arms. No matter what you're facing, you deserve to be connected to help, and we want you to know that people have been where you are now, and things can get better. Healing is possible. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to TWLOHA.com. That's TWLOHA.com. To Write Love on Her Arms. Yep, once you get there, it should change everything for you, because you'll notice right away that there's information related to addiction, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, self-injury, suicide, trauma, grief support, just to name a few. That's TWLOHA.com. To Write Love on Her Arms. Gonna tell you, you get there, you can change everything. No doubt about that, as we are hanging out. That is for sure. Anyways, let's continue talking about some other things that are going on inside of the world of the multiverse. Yep. What is it? What are we now? We're about 7 weeks away. There's a little event going on here in Orlando. Yes, in Orlando. We're going to be doing something that we're calling an observational symposium. We'll be hanging out with the likes of Nick Weatherly, Todd Conklin. Yes, they'll be live there in the room with us. We'll be doing something called Reality Shifts. What we have going on that particular day is we're going to shift the reality of everything that's happening. The reason that we're doing this is because we want to talk about how behavior-based safety, how human and organizational performance, and signal all kind of might tie into each other in one way, shape, or form. Also, we'll be watching a documentary because we're doing this thing inside of a movie theater. Oh, yeah, we're doing it inside of a movie theater. Don't worry, it's a kind of a mixed reality of things as we are doing them. So with that being said, I would just want you to think about this. If you come hang out in Orlando, it's on Monday, July the 13th. The reason we're doing it on a Monday, that way if you want to hang out in Orlando, you have the opportunity of doing that over the weekend. Oh, yeah, it'll be some fun times. All you have to do is find out more information to go to safetyfm.io. That's safetyfm.io. Or scan the little QR code that's right there on the screen. That should take you inside of that multiverse of ours in regards of everything that is going on. So there you go. Some things to think about, no doubt about that. Anyways, with that being said, safetyfm.io. Would love to see you there. No doubt about that. Anyways, I do have Mr. John Smalls hanging out over here in the wings, ready to talk about the Motivation Minute. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Seriously.
The Motivation Minute. Courtesy of JaceCaseMedical.com. Today's quote was submitted by Kim.
Douglas Adams said, "I may not have gone where I intended to go, but I think I have ended up where I needed to be." What a cool quote. If you would have asked me where I intended to go and where I ended up, these are miles apart. I may have mentioned this before, but as a kid, I used to watch Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. I was 100% certain that is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be on Saturday Night Live, then host The Tonight Show. So officially, Jimmy Fallon is living the dream of an 8-year-old John Small. Now, I'm 50. You couldn't pay me enough to do either of those jobs. I don't want to live in New York City or Los Angeles, but I think I found the perfect compromise. I get my radio show as an outlet to do interviews. I'm a stand-up comic, so that's kind of like doing a monologue. And the best part is, I can do it all from right here.
The Motivation Minute.
This has been The Motivation Minute. I'm John Small. Thanks for listening. Your favorite motivational quotes can be submitted for upcoming programs at motivationminute.org.
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
High-stakes diplomacy is unfolding over Iran as new peace terms circulate and fighting continues to strain the region.
Iran has sent a fresh proposal to the United States, while another Reuters report says the war has already cost global companies at least $25 billion. The talks come as pressure grows for a settlement, even while the conflict keeps disrupting shipping, markets, and business plans. Chris Anderson reporting.
In Congo, health officials are racing to contain a new Ebola outbreak that has already spread fast.
The World Health Organization is due to give an update after warning that the outbreak poses an international emergency. Treatment centers are opening, and medical teams are trying to slow the spread before it reaches more people. Gary Beck reporting.
Kenya's transport system is under heavy strain after a strike over fuel prices shut down many routes.
Roads in Nairobi and other areas were reported unusually quiet, and some schools told students to stay home. The walkout is putting new pressure on officials to address rising costs that have already angered commuters. Benjamin Wright reporting.
A military air show in Idaho turned dangerous when 2 fighter jets collided in the sky.
Emergency crews responded after witnesses reported the crash during the weekend event at a U.S. Air Force base. The pilots were able to eject safely, and investigators are now working to determine what went wrong. Lawrence Keller reporting.
President Trump's administration is moving ahead with a new fund tied to a deal over an IRS lawsuit.
The agreement would drop the legal fight in exchange for money set aside for allies who say they were prosecuted unfairly. The move adds another flashpoint to the administration's broader battle over how the government has used its power. Kyle Norris reporting.
The Supreme Court has cleared the way for Medicare drug price talks to keep moving forward.
The justices rejected appeals from pharmaceutical companies that wanted to block the negotiations. The ruling keeps one of the biggest parts of the government's prescription cost effort intact. Jessica Oakley reporting.
A massive drone assault targeted Moscow over the weekend, bringing the war closer to Russian civilians than ever before.
Russia's defense ministry reported shooting down over 1,000 Ukrainian drones in a single day, one of the largest such barrages of the conflict. 3 people were killed in the Moscow region, and the strikes are forcing officials to confront the fact that the war is no longer a distant campaign. Kevin Sanders reporting.
And that's the latest news headlines with Alan Edwards.
Some of the best things in life come to those who wait, but we ain't waiting for shit. Radio Big.
Oh, we're definitely waiting for something is what it sounds like. No doubt about that. Anyways, let's continue talking about some of the things that are going on inside of the world of the multiverse, because it's kind of what we do. I hope you're sitting for the following, because we're going to talk about today in history, and I got some news for you. Back in 1874, Levi Strauss markets blue jeans with copper rivets. Price? $13.50 a dozen. A dozen. Think about that. 1874. What else do we got? Back in 1926, Thomas Edison says Americans prefer silent movies over talkies. And in 1932, Amelia Earhart leaves the Newfoundland, first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. So there you go. Those are some things that happened back on this date. If you need some celebrity birthdays for today, let's talk about that. Cher. It's a birthday. She turns 80 today. Bronson Pinchot turned 67. Tony Goldwyn, 66. Mindy Cohen, 60. Timothy Olyphant turns 58. And Busta Rhymes. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he turns 54 today. Just in case if you wanted to know. Okay, so let's talk about some things that you
I don't know.
Billie Jean King just added another achievement for her legendary resume. A college degree, 65-year-old first starting school. The tennis icon, now 82 years old, officially earned her Bachelor's of Arts in the history from California State University, Los Angeles, during the commencement ceremony on Monday. King originally enrolled at the school back in 1961 when it was still called Los Angeles State College, but left after 3 years to focus on a little side project called becoming one of the greatest tennis players in history. King said that the accomplishment proves that it's never too late to get started. So there you go. Also, her student loans probably qualified for Social Security by at this point, but we'll leave that for another aspect. And then let's see, tonight's Powerball drawing will be for $113 million, just in case you want to know. Here's last night's winning Mega Million numbers. It was for a jackpot of $277 million. It was 10, 26, 34, 56, 64, and the Mega Ball was 6. So there you go. Take a listen to this real quick. James Robinson, the longtime televangelist and founder of Life Outreach International, has died at the age of 82. The ministry announced his passing, calling him a beloved leader who spent decades preaching the gospel and helping people in need around the world through humanitarian outreach programs. Robinson, also known for his connection to Donald Trump, serving as a spiritual advisor during Trump's time in politics. Over the years, he became one of the most recognizable evangelists across America, blending faith, television ministry, and conservative politics. In a statement, Life Outreach International said that Robinson dedicated his life to bringing hope, help, and healing to people worldwide. His ministries reached millions through television broadcasts, missionary work, and global relief. So some things to think about as we are talking. Sad to hear about his passing. That is for sure in regards of what is going on. So there you go. Okay, so let's continue talking as we are trying to get you the hell out of here. It is 57 minutes past the top of the hour. So here's what's going to happen. At the top of the hour, I will be going over to Radio Big.FM. If you want to come and hang out with me for the next couple hours or so, we'll be talking about the world of music and entertainment if you want to go over there and hang out. If you don't want to go over there and you would like to stay here on Safety FM, you can hang out with the likes of Sheldon Primus as he will be talking about the world of safety consulting. That's what's going on. Option Radio Big.FM for music and entertainment, or stay here with Sheldon Primus as he talks about the world of safety consulting. So there you go. Anyways, if I can leave you with some words of wisdom for today, they sound like this. A calm response frustrates angry people more than loud arguments ever will. And then if you need some advice for today, study or read in short bursts instead of marathon sessions. Your brain is in a gas station's hot dog roller. So there you go. That is something to think about. Anyways, I know who you are. You know who I am. No, hopefully you do. No, seriously. Hopefully you do. Love you, mean it, and goodbye.
The views and opinions expressed during this broadcast, podcast, or radio show are solely those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Safety FM and or Radio Big. The content discussed, including examples of analysis, is provided for illustrative purposes only. It should not be applied as the sole solution in real-world scenarios, as it is based on limited and dated open source information. Any assumptions made during this broadcast, podcast, or radio show are not reflective of Safety FM and or Radio Big. No portion of this broadcast, podcast, or radio show may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of Safety FM and or Radio Big. For permission requests, please contact Safety FM or Radio Big directly.
Yeah.
music on shuffle. Radio Big.